Today we're going to do ratios, rates, and unit rate. And I think a lot of this you covered maybe last year in 6th grade. So I'm hoping this is more of a review. So let's talk first about ratios. What is a ratio? A comparison of two or more quantities. We often talk about part to whole. So let's talk about an example of a ratio. If I have 4 triangles and I have 3 circles, what is the ratio of triangles to circles? And that would be 4, 2, 3. I have 4 triangles, I have 3 circles. It can also be written with a colon, 4, 3. And it can be written as 4 over 3. This is not a fraction. This is not a fraction. All right? Now, sometimes we'll say part to whole. When we say part to whole, we are referring to adding together. So how many shapes do we have all together? We have 4 plus 3, which is equal to 7. So if I did part to whole, I would say triangles over total, and that would be 4 out of 7. Or I would say circles out of total, and that would be 3 out of 7. These are fractions. Part to whole. That is not a fraction when I write it 4 to 3. 4 over 3. That's not a fraction, it's a ratio. Not all ratios are fractions. All right, we have a proportion. Proportions are two ratios that are equivalent. And what does that word equivalent mean? Equal to each other. They are equal to each other. So if I had rectangles, I have 2, and I have 6 x's. What is my ratio of x's to rectangles? Okay, well, I have 6. I'm going to write it down here, x over rectangle. So I would have 6 x's over 2 rectangles. That would simplify to 3 over 1. So these, by dividing both of these by 2, I have equivalent ratios, which means that this is a proportion. Because they equal each other. All right? We have something we call a rate. A rate is a ratio that compares different types of units. Okay, we're going to get right into what our lesson is going to be this whole week, and that is unit rates. Okay. Okay, A unit rate is a rate where one of the quantities is 1. And we're going to see words like per, each, every. Those are key words that are going to mean the number 1. Key words that are going to mean the number 1. We're going to see these in word problems, and those are going to tell you that that is what we're looking for, the number 1. So how do we find unit rate? Okay, so we have a rate, which would be walk 10 miles in 2 hours. And it'll say find miles per hour. There's that word per. So hour must be on the bottom of our ratio. So we're going to have miles over hours. That would be 10 over 2. And we want that 1 to go for per hour. So we have to divide by 2. Divide by 2 for our proportion. And we would get 5. So this would be 5 miles per hour. Okay, whatever that per goes with, that's how we set up our proportion. Okay, so second example, read 6 pages in 12 minutes. Find pages per minute. Okay, so it's going to be per minute. So we need to do pages over minutes. Pages is 6 over 12 minutes. And we have to get to that number 1. If I divide this by 12 and divide this by 12, 6 divided by 12 is a half. So it would be a half a page per minute. Last example. Type 10 emails in 8 minutes. Find emails per minute. Per minute. Per minute. That means that we are going to put that minute in the bottom of our ratio. So we're going to do emails over minutes. And this is something that you're going to be doing all the time. You're always going to be labeling your work for me. We're going to do 10 over 8. Now that has to be 1. So what do I need to do? I need to divide. So I'm going to take 10 and I'm going to divide it by 8. Add a couple decimals on there, a decimal point and a couple zeros. 8 goes into 10 once. Bring down the 0. 8 goes into 20 2 times. Subtract, that would give me 4. Bring down my 0. Goes in 5 and subtract and I get 0. This becomes 1 25/100ths when I divide both by 8. So she can type 1 25/100ths emails per minute. So it's important to remember that what we're going to be doing is that you have to make sure that you're labeling all of your work, setting it up. Look for the key words per or every or each, and make sure you underline those, and that will tell you what part of your ratio you are turning into a unit rate.